Now more than ever, innovative technologies are fueling change and sparking new ways of thinking. Collaboration between corporations and startups is key to staying at the forefront of these trends. However, finding the right startups can be expensive, time-consuming, and ineffective. But Plug and Play is here to help. As a corporate partner, you will gain access to a whole ecosystem of innovation. Discover startups that meet your tech interests. Stay updated on the latest trends and network with industry peers. We will help you during every stage of your innovation journey, no matter where you are and where you want to go. Get in touch today.
All right, so thank you everybody for joining. Happy to have you. Happy to have Monica here discussing go-to-market strategies and scalability. And so Monica is a global business development executive for Principal, and she's the subject matter expert, the connoisseur, the guru. So I'm excited to have her here and share her best practices and knowledge with all of you guys. So I do like to make these meetings instead of webinars just because I like to make them interactive. You know, I want you guys to feel like you can ask your own questions throughout the presentation. Monica's happy to answer those as we go along. Just during the presentation, Monica, if you're okay with them keeping their cameras on, that's fine. Otherwise, just having you mute yourself until you have a question. But
no, it's I'm sharing my screen.
Okay,
so
perfect.
It's possible for them, but
Okay.
yes, I would like to keep this interactive. So my goal today was creating a small presentation, of course, that has some structure, but the goal was trying to address your questions and your concerns. So I would appreciate that if you want to ask me questions as I go along, feel free to interrupt me. Feel free to ask if I know I have an accent, sometimes can be tricky to understand. So feel free to ask me, but my main goal today is trying to answer as more questions as you have about your challenges in going to market. So just a little bit of a background of who I am. So I'm a global business developer, as Sarah said. I've been working in agribusiness for about 15 years. Mainly in global markets, and my focus was always market penetration, strategic partnerships, scalability, transforming business, bringing innovation, bringing products to market, and growth. I'm Portuguese, born and raised, studied there, started my career in agriculture, in the agribusiness in there. Later, I moved to South America, to Uruguay. Actually, I lived a few years between both countries, and now I'm living in US. So all these diverse experiences and perspective give me a lot of input and help me being creative when it comes to entering new markets or the same market with a new product, or even transforming business models. So my track record, it's basically, when it comes to numbers, it's how all these strategies that we are going to talk today can transform in numbers, in revenue, because in the end of the day, that's what matters, correct? So the majority of the questions I've seen, and usually from business that I work, why building a go-to-market strategy? A go-to-market strategy, it's basically a roadmap. It's like your map to how are you going to approach your market. And I strongly advise that that you do it, that you devote time. Don't skip it. Because my experience during my career is that the few times we just decided, oh, let's just go for it, let's see what it sticks, we failed tremendously. There are a lot of go-to-market strategies. What I'm going to share today, it's been working, and the main points that I believe that are important for you to address and work to be able to be successful. If you do it correctly, a go-to-market strategy will give you a clear direction to where you want to go, how you want to do it, and how to be successful. So, why is this not moving? Okay, so I identified 6 steps that I feel that are the most important to create a go-to-market. There's some questions here. Sorry. I identified a few 6 steps, but for me, honestly, I think the first 4 are the core of your go-to-market strategy. So you need to identify the market and what are the personas in there. You need to research your competition, and the same amount of effort that you put in identifying your target markets, you have to put on your competition. And usually you do it at the same time. Then after that, you have to develop what is your message, where are you positioned in your market, and what is your unique selling point, what differentiates you. And then you will decide which sales business models, and could be one, could be several, that you would like to use. And of course, in the end, you have the data analysis to be able to optimize this process. I see this process as a wheel, and it's in constant movement. So how do you identify the market? This is probably one of the key, it's the first key. You need to know exactly who is going to be your customer, who is going to be the person that is most likely to buy your product. Will there be farmers, that be crop advisors, that be ag consultants, be corporations? It's going to be a business to business, it's going to be a business, it's going to be a mix. You don't have to choose between one, but this needs to be clear. What is the market in this GMT that you want to address? Where is this market? What is the region? Where is located? How it's defined? What are the economical environments? It's very important. The social environment, the cultural environment. Study that. Then what are their pain points? So the idea is that you understand what are their needs, what are the challenges they have, and what will be the solution that you'll deliver, right? Identifying who is your buying center. In a sale, you can identify who is your market, but inside of the market, there are several decision makers. You can contact the initiator, where you initiate the contact, but then there's always people that influence, others that take the decision, the users, then who will buy, who will approve. So identify all of them and understand for all of them what are their specific challenges and needs. So as more detailed as you are in identifying your market and study it, the better then you will build your approach. So other thing that is important is understanding the buyer's journey. So the buyer's journey is a little bit you need to put yourself in the customers or the decision maker's shoes. So you need to identify what are the behaviors that buyers take before and after purchasing. How do they go from being curious about your product to paying for your product, to buy it, right? So it's basically how do you attract, how do you engage, and how then they will make the decision. So, And this, you have to have the two perspectives, their perspective as a buyer, that is considering, are they aware of their problem? Are they considering if they want to take some action to solve that problem and start checking available options to solve it, and the decision. And from your perspective, when are you going to identify if they are ready to? It's called the intent. How are you going? When do you identify that the customer is aware and is looking for options and intends to? So that's when you start seeing from your perspective. When am I going to show my product because they have the intent, evaluate it? How am I going to sell it? And then later, how am I going to bring loyalty to build a long-term relationship? So these ones are the main points that I usually consider when I'm identifying markets that I want to get in. On the same time, I will research the competition, and the research of the competition is as detailed as the market or even more. Because when you research the competition, you need to know who they are, who are their customers, how do they interact and engage. Basically, from the competition, you will learn a lot about your market. Because everything that, if you are competing with them, you need to understand, this is a key point, how you are going to position yourself. So it's basically the same as study the market, but from the competition perspective. What is their messaging, how they are approaching, what is the pricing? And that is fairly easy to find if you approach customers or just research online. Whatever tools you have available, do the same as you've done for the market, and of course, and try to see where are their weaknesses, I would say, where they can do better, because that could be one of your opportunities to get into their markets or to compete with them. Now that you have this, which I think it's our two key things, you will go to developing your messages. Developing your message is basically, you know your product, right? More than anyone, you need to know exactly what your product is. So what makes you different? What it's going to wake on the customer to why are they going to choose you? Where do they add value for them? This is very important. I give you an example. So imagine that you're going into a commodity market, and this happened to me. So commodity markets, if you see, there are tons of companies in commodity and they don't go away, but then they want to put proprietary products. And sometimes the same company, several companies sell the same product, and why none of them is outweighing the other? So if your products are equal, one of the things that you can differentiate yourself, it's the type of service. That is your add value. What is the type of service that you provide in case you go with the same product? So in developing the message, you need to tailor it to your customer. So despite you have a general value proposition that you build, what is your mission of your company and what is your product in general, then you have to customize every message and every value proposition to the customer. Also, inside of the customer, I would suggest that you will customize the message for the decision maker. So this value matrix is it's a small example, but this is something that you can do, because Depending on the market, the structure of business that you are approaching, the type of customer, you can have 3, 4 decision makers, but you can have 10. And to all of them, you will have to have a different approach, a different message, because all of them will have different challenges or pain points. I don't like to call pain. I think pain is a strong word. I think they will have challenges that they want to overcome. And so they want that your product approaches with different solutions or different perspective to the solution. So this is an example of a value matrix that you can do to build your messaging. Also remind yourself, a GMT, it's a dynamic plan. That is saying it's flexible, it's constantly evolving, it's adjustable. So there's not a one fits all. Probably even for the customer, you will have sometimes to adjust several times until you close the deal. Because as you start interacting, what we call trials, right? You start getting more information. You start reading better what are their needs. And so you come back, and even if you start with a draft, you will adjust it and adjust it. So always remind yourself that this is a dynamic plan, and you can adjust it anytime, despite being important, having a first one to start. Like this. So, positioning. After you have all target market, competition, developing your message, you need to know where you stand. Because you need to start converting leads into customers. But competition is out there. And of course, the customer is talking with us or with you, but they are checking others. So basically, on the positioning, you need to know what the customer wants, what the competitors do well, what you do well. And there's this red area that is your unique selling point. But they say it's what did you bring to the table that is different? What you do better than the others? And this is another point that needs to be clear, is exactly what is your product. You need to know exactly what is a product and what it does different. And you need to know it all the time to all the customer and all the markets. If you want to stand out, you always need to know what is your unique selling point that will separate you from the crowd. So having that, I think if you do all of that, you have the foundational work to start deciding in which strategy you want to jump in, what concerning to sales. This is what, these are the 4 types of sales business models. I put them all in here, but there are 2 of them that I would like to discuss more in depth, because I think that probably will be more relevant. So the first one is the self-service model, which is it's kind of like the Netflix. It's a simple product. It's very popular between business to customer or software as a service. The customer can go online, register, buy the product, and it's very easy to understand. So the purchase, it's simple and it's for high volume and doesn't require any team. I think that this could be a small option, and my experience in agribusiness is that yes, agribusinesses start having, you can buy online and just do it simply, but it's a very small portion and it's in specific business, and that happens after you already know, after the business is well established in the market and the customer probably already has years of relationship and knows exactly what they want. But starting as a self-service, I'm not familiar with, and I don't think that's how it works in agribusiness. The other business models, it's in inside sales. Inside sales is common in business to business for technology, service, software as a service. Again, high volume company doesn't need a lot of team, but the complexity of the business is not high. You will have some volume in sales, but as you don't have team, it's very close to the self-service. It's basically, you don't go online, but you'll receive a phone call, or there's not a face-to-face relationship. Now, the last two, field service, field sales and channel sales. These two are the ones that I'm most familiar in the agribusiness models that I've been using. So the field sales, usually it's for, requires a specialized team of sales development, engineers, and it's for large enterprises. Typically, the product is very complex. They have high price points, so they require a team members to work with the customer to make the sale and even to give support. This is a costly sales model, because you'll have a heavy expense on the team, because you need to have qualified and skilled people, but it's an easy model to build. It's difficult to scale because of the amount of expenses that that come from managing such a big team. Channel sales, it's using third parties or doing partnerships. So in channel sales, it's where sometimes 1 + 1 is 3. By the same, you will need a team and a skilled team, but not as heavy, because you will use third parties. So you will have someone that will sell it for you. Very common in agribusiness, mainly when scaling it to large areas and to different countries. It's a cheaper model than the model before, and you can mix and match it with the others by the same. My experience tells me that the business model, you don't need to choose one, even with the customer. You can choose 2 or 3, depending on if you don't have restrictions in exclusivity deals, in areas where can your, how do I say, when there's no conflict. So channel sales, depending on your goals, but on the long run, it's, in my point of view, the best way to scale a business. It's when you create partners, and partners can be, even with the competition, you can create a partnership, because you can have complementary products, or you can have retails selling your product, and you just have to train the retail. You don't have to train every single customer. So this is always a business model to consider when you want to scale. It's using agents, partners, third parties that will help you scale and grow the business. So then comes the marketing, and the marketing, it's simple. It's, you have to build your brand, going into and being that you are going to a new market, or you are already in your market. So you need to be aware of how the market perceive you, how do you want to show up, what is the language, how do you want to represent yourself. Then you will need to generate leads, and you will know what will be the best way. I like to have kind of an aggressive approach. I tried everything. If I'm going to jump into the market, I try to be as more exposed and as I can, in order to generate more leads. The contact that will share, that will help the customers and the market to know you. Your website needs to be up to date. Everyone will go and check your website, your Twitter, your LinkedIn. And then if you want to advertise, how do you want to advertise? And the main goal to keep in mind on the marketing is generate interest. Marketing, the main goal, it's generate this, and then coming sales for you to close. How to optimize and growth. This is all great building, but you need to know if this is working. So enable to optimize, and sales is a numbers game, right? You need to choose your metrics, whatever, how you want to measure, and tie them to specific goals that you have. Usually in sales, it's volume, the customer conversion rate, length of the sales cycle. But then there are others, and you can adjust them as you go, or as your business need. But you need to data analysis, in case because that's the only way that you have an understanding how is the market is responding, for you to adjust and then do it again and grow. The key points I will take from, or key advices that I would give is, never ever rush GMT. Look into data, spend time, take time to find your product market fit, do tons of research. I know that when you have the product, it's a great idea, and you want to bring it to the market, but stop and research your competition, research your market environment, your economics, what are their partners doing. If you do that in the future, you will thank yourself that you do that, because you will do it in the right way. Then be flexible. As I said, a go-to-market strategy, it's a live strategy. It's always changing, and you need to be flexible and patient to understand the shifts of the market, the customer needs, and to adjust it. So just keep your focus, and be aware that the go-to-market is probably the most important part of your business, launching in a new product and bringing a business into the market. So this is what I have. I'm open to any questions.
Thank you for taking the time to talk to us today. I had a question about, let me go back to my notes here. So in the slide for point number 4, the defined position and USP, would you mind going back to that real quick?
Yes.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about that, that Venn diagram there.
Okay, yeah. You will have access to this. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Okay. So when you're trying to define your unique selling point, let's say, your product is slightly more expensive than what's typically available, right? Um, what are some strategies for, like, I guess, spinning that kind of cost overrun? I know that, a lot of the time, you can sort of say that obviously that we do whatever service or product better or things like that. But I was just curious if you had sort of like any uh insight in ways to, like, overcome that automatic distaste when people think something is more expensive than what's currently available in the market.
I don't know. That's a great question because it happens often. I don't know what is the product, but usually when a price is higher, what I try to give first is the big picture. By the same, instead of going into the specifics, show the full package. What is the big picture that you are? Yes, it's a similar product, but in the long run, as a whole, it will provide you this. Then yes, talk about service. And I think the majority of you are Agtech, so software as service. So not only the service of the product, but your service. What is, in the long run, the type of support that you give? What are the benefits that they will take? I bet that if you show the whole as your product long term, it's always nice to talk about long term, mainly because don't leave it for last. Start in the beginning, assuming that he will be a customer for long term. Show the whole package. It's not just the software. Yes, it will probably address the same problem that my competition addresses, but I can provide you this type of assistant. I can provide you this in the long term. You will have an easy way to access to it. So, as I said, being on a commodity market, and that's how we present what can I, as a whole, I can do for you. So that would be, and showing that probably in the end, he's not paying a higher price, is investing in having more revenue, having more efficiency. Efficiency is always something that you want to hear. So it's not the higher price. It's higher efficiency, higher returns, more success in the future. See, you need to shift a little bit the speech, I would say,
Yeah.
into what they are taking, what they are earning. It's not what they are expending, they are investing, and they are getting the returns. And the returns, then you need to come with the whole package. This would be my suggestion without knowing exactly what is the product, what is the market.
No, that framing is very helpful to sort of spin or downplay additional costs. It's not you're paying more, you're investing in your returns. I really like that. Thank you. That's incredibly helpful, even from a generalized perspective.
Thank you. Thank you. Good. Any other question I can address? Or any other examples of or challenges that you have going to market that I can share some experiences that I have? No?
You guys are a quiet crowd.
It is.
Monica, hi,
And
I'm Barbara.
Hi, Barbara.
Hello. Hi. I would like, for example, I don't understand very well the part of developing the message, okay? Can you make for me some examples, for example, the different kinds of message for the decision maker?
Okay, good question. Yes, let me just go back to my notes because I want to see. So the different decision makers, the personas in a business, they can be, using an example, you can be talking with a farmer, that could be the end user, right? So the message to the farmer would be, what is the pain point of the farmer? Imagine is that he doesn't know how to irrigate and is expending a lot of water when he doesn't need, less water when he needs it. So the message you are going to give to the farmer that is in you, it's how he's going to make his life easier, how he's going to manage better his day-to-day operations, and how in the end he will have easier and more control about his day-to-day. This trying to give you an example. But actually, who is going to buy the product or the service? It's going to be your local retailer that supplies that farmer. So the local retailer, what does he need to know that is different from the farmer? And in the local retailer, it's going to be the person that is going to take the decision to buy. It's going to be the crop advisor that will take it, which will be an influencer both sides, both to the crop retailer and to the farmer. So how do you do different messages? So what does the crop retailer, the buyer in there, need to know? He needs to know that he will probably have a percentage on this, that so he will have more earnings, that he will have a software that it's easy to use, so the farmers don't need to constantly be calling to the crop consultant to go to the field, because this is an expense for a retailer having a crop consultant, that it can connect with his supply chain, because if the farmer has better data on how he's running the irrigation, the retail will know exactly the needs of the fertilizer and other inputs, and when they're going, because they know the usage of water. See the difference? So what you told the farmer is completely different. What are you telling the retailer, even though you are selling the same product? But what I'll say is that if you are a farmer, what are your problems? What are the solutions that you want? The crop retailer that is buying that, what is the crop retailer's problem? Now, in the crop retail, you have the ag advisor, crop advisor. For him, what is going to be different? He will have access to better data to advise the farmer, and he will have better data to bring to the retail in order for them to buy input. So depending on how these decision makers, they are positioned in the supply chain, I would say, or in the market or in the company, they will have different views and different needs, even though you are selling the same product, but you need to show them the different perspective of how they can take benefit out of it. Was that helpful?
Yes, thank you so much. Okay.
And that's why it's so important to identify them, because all of them,
Okay.
and I just put here the influencer, decision maker, but sometimes if it's big corporations, you have CFO, you have people from IT. Why it's important to identify them? Because
Okay.
if you go prepared to that, if you identify that they exist, before you test your message, you are going to prepare yourself to have different approaches. And when you sit with them, you know exactly how to communicate, having a clear communication and intentional. So if you know, even if you are all on the same table, you will address every single problem and perspective that are on that table.
I think another way we can think about it from a plug and play perspective is the user is your consumer. So your end consumer, that's who your product is designed for. The influencer would be like VCs or our corporate champions, just a generic community member that you obviously want it to be broad enough that they understand it, but you don't need to get into the details. And then the decision maker would be that CFO, or maybe it's the machine plant head if they can integrate your technology into it. So the user is for your product. You probably have that one down packed. The influencer is kind of where it's like, are you talking to a VC? Are you talking to someone else? That influencer stage. And then the decision maker is going to care about more of the nitty gritty, the money. How is it going to make money? How is it going to better my business? That kind of thing.
Yes, thank you. Great input. Yes.
Any other questions for Monica? Again, we will share out her contact information, her presentation. So if you guys do have follow-up questions after this, please feel free to reach out to her. I'm happy to help coordinate as well. But I think taking a lot of these points into consideration too, you know, in Agtech and animal health, even being very saturated industries and spaces, everybody's, you know, doing somewhat similar things. So how you can truly differentiate yourself and how to stand out is super important.
Yes. Go ahead.
Hi, Monica. Thank you for your presentation. I actually have a question. Basically, sometimes when we are approaching clients, potentially farmers, they are, like just was said, they are asking, what value will I get? How much profit will I get? And sometimes this is kind of like a rabbit hole, because you then starting to analyze the farmer's exact business. You're trying to get some numbers out of farmers to calculate how beneficial your product will be. So maybe you can advise where is the point to stop and say like, okay, so this is what we proposing, and then you decide.
Sorry, I didn't understand the question.
Yeah, okay. I'll try to give examples. So there is a farmer, for example, and we are approaching him with some proposal, let's say SaaS platform or any other platform in agriculture. And the farmer asking, okay, so I am now using the product A, your product is really similar. How much money in difference will I, like benefit from using your product? And in order to answer that question, you need to dive into really what the business of your client is, how he's using the current product, show him how beneficial is your product. And this is sometimes can take really a lot of time. So maybe you can advise when it is the point, to stop and understand that this is not your client, for example.
Okay, that's a great question, because sometimes it's a question that we all should do. It's should I keep going into this market or not? So a few key points. One of the questions I would make, first of all, when you make me this question, how well do you know the product that he's using, which is your competitor? This is the first question you need to know, because if you know exactly what he's using, and if you know that you have competitive advantage, despite imagine that your product is more expensive, so then what I will suggest, and this is an assumption, is that do a pilot. A lot of times in my past, for me to enter in the competition markets, I will do free trials. And in my business, which is not software, the trials take a few years, but a pilot could be one of the ways to show him, for him to compare, my apologies, side to side, the benefits and the return on his investment, because it's all about the return on the investment that he will have. Could be that the return on the investment is faster, could be that is higher. But what I would suggest is that be aware and that you know your competition and that the product that you are proposing is better than the one he has. If it's not the case, how do you get, and this was something that I wanted to discuss with you. How do you go into a market how do you go into your competitor's market that is a big market, strong market? So sometimes if you can't win them, you have to surround them. What you can do is this. You want customer A, but customer A is with the competition, is a big customer, strong market, would grow your company tremendously. But you are not quite ready yet. So you use the square tactic, same as war. You start surrounding your customer A and start approaching all the neighbor customers. So you do a square. Might is saying this will take time, of course, but this time you have to see it as an investment. Might is saying you are gaining traction, you are gaining experience, you are gaining knowledge, you are improving. Meanwhile, you are improving. So the difference is that you don't get to the customer A on the year 1, you'll get it on the year 5, but meanwhile, you get all the neighborhoods. So when your customer is surrounded, he will start understanding that at least he will try the product. So that is a way to go to a customer if you really want to. Also, you can decide that that customer is not a fit for you, that your product, it's not, and this happens, and as hard as it is, this is, Sarah said it, it's a oversaturated market, and sometimes you need to just be humble and say, no, I'm not going to use resources when I know in advance. That's why a good research on your market and your competition and knowing exactly your product and where you position will save you a lot of money, because you take early decisions on saying, this is not a market where I can be successful right now. I'm not saying that is forever, but right now, it's not where I can go yet.
I think that's a good point too. Also, I was told once in an interview for a job that, a good candidate does their research. And I think that's applicable to a startup situation, right? You're essentially interviewing to be the product for these customers, right? You want them to use your technology. And so from a grower perspective, they don't have a lot of time. They have a million things going on in their mind. They don't have, 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours to listen, to a pitch. So they want to know right away within the first 30 seconds of what are you trying to sell me and how is it going to benefit me? So doing your research and just being able to fire off those answers and responses right away, that's what's going to get the attention and interest of a grower. They don't have a lot of time. Time is not a luxury they have. So that's super important when you are approaching growers directly,
Yes.
Make their time efficient.
Yes. Thank you.
Any other questions for Monica? Great discussion. Again, we'll send out a recording of this as well, but if there aren't any other questions, I just have a quick...
Sorry, Sarah, do we get both the slides and the presentation? Sorry, do we get the slides without the video, is what I mean?
You'll get the presentation and the recording. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. Great. Okay. Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, lovely.
Yes, no problem. I just have a quick survey question for you here. I'll launch. If you guys would be so kind as to fill this out, 1 being the least, 10 being the best, we would truly appreciate it. But thank you everybody for joining, and thank you, Monica, for being here and sharing all of your expertise with us.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for attending, for your time. Thank you, Sarah, for challenging me doing this. I really appreciate it. And thank you all. And feel free to reach out to me with any questions that I can help you with.
Yes. And Lindsay and I are also, a resource for you guys. So feel free to reach out anytime. You guys know how to get a hold of us.
Okay, that's great.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, everybody.